I know it says 434, but it's really 429 at Cerritos College. And I don't know how exactly all of my devices match, and that doesn't, but nonetheless, here we are. It's coming up on 4:30. We have 30 minutes dedicated to each of the candidates, and they begin with a 1-minute opening statement, and our timekeeper today is Dr. Salazar. And my name is Craig Bright, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you a candidate who is an incumbent, sitting Board of Trustees member, and also candidate in Area 6. Would you please make welcome Dr. Sandra Salazar.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here to address you today. And I am one of the incumbents. Been on the board for 4 years, ran back in 2012. And really the reasons for running for re-election are the same reasons why I ran for College Board. I did have the only labor platform when I ran in 2012. Already started talking about a PLA back then. And pretty much the main reason why I'm running is to really make sure that the students have the same opportunities I was able to have. I'm the first generation to go to college, to go to medical school, and I really can identify with some of these students and their struggles. My husband has a special place for Cerritos. He was a very poor student, kicked out of one school, went to another, went to Cerritos College, had like a 1-point-something GPA, and then was able to transfer to Cal, one of the first, probably one of the first transfers back in 91, 92. So again, without Cerritos College, there'd be no Enrique. So I feel indebted to the community college system because it does give that second chance to people, or the first chance. For some people it is that first stop, or for some people it's the last stop, and you either make it or you don't. So I think we really need to focus on the community college system, just statewide, and this is my little grain of salt. So that's kind of why I ran, and so pretty much my concerns being here for 4 years is really that those transfer rates and completion rates. And that's kind of what drives me to be here and to be vocal for our students.
1 minute.
That's it.
Okay, so we then begin with question number 1, which is to describe, please, your role as a trustee compared to that of the college superintendent president.
Well, I think as a trustee, definitely priority fiscal accountability. We approve the budget, see where the monies are being allocated. Also, we're the governing body. We're not the managers. We create policy, and it's our president, superintendent who implements and manages employees, manages pretty much the whole college. We just kind of govern, and that's kind of how I see our role.
And question number 2, describe please your current relationship with the Cerritos College Faculty Federation.
I think we've had a good relationship. From day one, I think I've had a close working relationship with Dr. Namala and other people on the e-board. I pride myself in being available, being open to talk to anybody if they have any concerns or issues, with which I have. I'm available via cell phone, email, people know where I live, so I think I've been available, and I think I've worked closely with Dr. Namala and some other concerns that we've all had.
Thank you. Question number 3. Under what circumstances do you believe it is important for you to consult with the CCFF before making a decision as a trustee?
I think a lot of times it's helpful to really consult with CCFF, members of CCFF, the president of CCSF, when there's issues that really pertain to them. Obviously there's certain rules when it comes to bargaining, collective bargaining, but I think just getting a sense of the climate of the faculty. You know, I do have a full-time job and I'm not always on campus, but I think when I can go to some of the faculty and say, hey, what are the faculty feeling or thinking about this issue or that issue? So I think it's important to have that communication. I know sometimes it's used as a tactic to say we can't talk to union people because it might be a violation of collective bargaining, but I disagree. To have a conversation, there's nothing against that. And I think that's something I've done to find out the priorities, the climate of the faculty here on campus.
Thank you. And question number 4. The relationship between CCFF and the district has been strained over the last year due to a protracted negotiation process. How would you work to improve this relationship?
Well, I think it does boil down to communication, transparency, respect, mutual respect, and really understanding the work that the faculty bring to the college. I mean, you are the educators of our students, right? So we have to always keep that in mind, and I do fight for fair wages, benefits, a working environment. And I think it's been a challenge, and I think that it pretty much began with the previous president. So it's kind of been one hit after another. Then we lost our HR person, and then just kind of the loss of trust, and really not having, unfortunately, we're each a vote, and we need to count to 4. And as much as I feel that I've been the progressive, labor, friendly candidate, I'm only 1 vote. And I feel that we might have brought diversity with the 2012 election, with the districting, but that doesn't mean we brought progressive values to the board. So, that's 2 different issues. So I think that it hasn't been as progressive as we would have hoped that the districting would have brought to the board. And I think that's been part of the issue. And until we can really kind of have our and I think there's been some flip-flopping, and I think that's one thing that I can say for me personally. From day 1 to now, my values haven't changed, my beliefs haven't changed, and really my platform hasn't changed. And if I say something, I'm going to go for it. I think one of the other issues, for example, the sabbaticals, I was very vocal in trying to bring back the sabbaticals to make up for all the years that you had to compromise and give up your sabbaticals because of the recession. And I was a lonely voice for a while until everyone kind of just felt that they had to kind of follow. But I'm okay with making that maybe unpopular statement, because that's something I believe in, and I'll continue to do that.
And then question number 5, why should the CCFF endorse you?
Well, I hope that you would see me as an asset and as a friendly board member that you can go to, and to understand that I will fight for working families. I will fight for the labor values. I was the most vocal person for the PLA, and I hope that you have seen that at the board table, and that's why I hope that you would support me, that you see me as an ally, and that I will continue to fight for your cause.
Thank you so much. We open it up now to questions from the floor, and we begin with Steph.
Hi, Dr.
Hi.
Salazar. Hi. Can you give us an example of a specific instance in which you've communicated with either an official representative from CCFF or other faculty members to solve a problem or to get information on an issue that's up for discussion at a board meeting?
I think, for example, a main concern or question has been, for example, the budget and some of the transparency and the numbers. So I've never hesitated to pick up the phone, and I'm a math person, but I'm definitely not a budget person, and really picking up the phone, calling Dr. Namala as an economist, as a faculty member, and really saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I think that's happened multiple times over the years with the budget, and just calling about an item and say, hey, what are your thoughts on that, and what's your membership feel about that? So I think that's been one of the bigger examples of that, sabbaticals, kind of how things are, how do they go through the pipeline to get to the point of how were sabbaticals awarded during a certain year, and those were kind of 2 big examples, I would say.
Hi, Paul Macy, Science. It seems to me, just based on observation, by listening to my colleagues here at the college, that the relationship with the board and certain administrators has led to those administrators leaving, Dr. Lacey, for example. We've lost good people that are wanting to be respected by the college as a whole because of these tense relations. At least that's how it seems from what I've heard and from my perspective. Can you just comment on that? Maybe help me understand that a little bit better.
I think it has to do with communication and the willingness to work together. change is hard, and I think 2012 brought a huge change agent for whatever reason, just the turnover of the board. There had been really no turnover for many years, and then 2012 brought a huge boom and huge turnover. And I think it was the ability to be able to work together, and I think it was the concern from the newer board members who just wanted to be informed. What's happening? Why are things done a certain way? I think that's what it boils down to, if I can simplify it, is really the lack of transparency that some board members felt, that we were just asking questions. How are things done? And we were getting pushback and that's the way it's always been done. Well, I think some of us, most of us might like to see that things are done in a fair process where we all can agree and there's really no surprises. So I think it was just the inability of some people to be willing to work together. I think that's, and I agree with you, we have lost some good people. And if we can look at the silver lining, we can say if we have a new president, he can bring in his team and we can start hopefully over again and rebuild that trust, because I think along the way, a lot of trust was lost.
I'll go.
Fine arts. You're sort of the fly on the wall for a lot of us. We've been to these heated board meetings where things seem so plain between frustration of faculty and students. So on a scale of 1 to 10 in those back rooms when you're discussing, how hard is it to sway the other board members? And then what could you do? What could you do to, I like your terms, progressive, and I know you have been, and I applaud you on sabbaticals, but what could you do to get that real stubborn jump over 5 and 6 to get people to be on your side? Is it just determination and consistency, or?
It's been very hard, and I think it's the outside pressure. I think working together and really bringing pressure from within and also pressure from the outside. Because I think with the sabbaticals, I held a certain view, and I would voice it in the closed session, and I also voiced it in the outside. And I think that kind of started, and working together with the people who were also vocalizing their concerns, that kind of made the board shift a little, as well as the president at the time. So I think it's, again, working together. I mean, I'm one vote, and I can't do everything on my own. But I think it's working as a team and really trying to push an agenda item forward.
But the challenge from 1 to 10 has been
1 to 10, you mean that my
how
challenge?
difficult is it from 1 to 10 to get other people to think like you?
Very. Very, but not to say that it can't happen, but very. Because I have seen some people surprise me sometimes in closed session, but it has been challenging.
Hi, I'm Jerry Ramos, business instructor, alumni, and a parent of a child in a child development center. I've been to the board many times. You've seen me there with the business club accolades. In July, though, I went as a very concerned parent of the child development center. In July 5th, 5 teachers were fired under duress. They were given an ultimatum to be terminated or resign. They resigned. They were confused and not sure what to do. So many parents, over 30, went to the board meeting to say, hey, before you ratify this resignation, please look into it. And many are voting constituents, as myself, and in your area. So we didn't go just to express and to feel good and to say, ooh, got that off my chest. Yeah, we went also for some answers. And I'm one of the parents, I'm confused. I know that I did see that it was ratified after. I don't know what went in that discussion. I'm not sure how much you can divulge. But from my perspective, it seemed like nothing was heard. It seems like did we really go there to vent, or we're constituents, but we're people, we're stakeholders, and many friends. What can you do to show transparency and to provide answers to your voting constituents?
I think that's been one of our struggles, is really to show that transparency at the board table for the constituents, right? And that, I think one of them was the video live streaming transcripts available, the board meetings, which hadn't happened before, and finally we were able to get that investment. The president agreed that that was an investment that we should make. So I think that's a big step in the right direction. I think some of that is limited in terms of that employee relation that we're not able to divulge, but what I can say, since it was on the agenda, that it was a resignation, that it wasn't really meaning that whatever happened behind the scenes, but in terms of the board voting, it was just accepting the resignation. Now, kind of what led up to that, again, that goes into the HR portion of it, and again, that goes back to really hiring people that will really move the college forward in a positive direction. And I think we can work together to do that, because we have such a minimal staffing right now in HR that we can push to really hire people that can really advocate for all the groups involved. And I think that's part of the challenge, not having that HR person, having a consultant on board on a temporary basis, and really that item coming to us really just to accept a resignation.
We just signed a tentative agreement yesterday, but it has taken us over a year to get here. What are your thoughts on that, the fact that it has been so contentious, and it took us so long to get here? The second question is, what are your goals moving forward for the next term if you get re-elected?
I think it's bittersweet. I think that's good news, but at the same time, we shouldn't have dragged it along. I wish we wouldn't have failed mediation, be at the heels of fact-finding before something got done. And I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed, and I think it doesn't look good for a board that in 50 years, it's the first time that this happens, and it happens to be with that diverse board, right? So it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but we are where we are now, and I'm happy that there's a tentative agreement and both sides seem to be happy. That's not the way I wanted it to be, as an individual board member, and it's pretty embarrassing, I think, and I don't think it's a win for anybody, because there's still, okay, how do we move forward? How do we move forward as a board, as administration, as the faculty, and move on to the next round of bargaining? Where do we go from here? So I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and that trust needs to be rebuilt. And if things didn't get worse, I felt they got worse. And I think, again, I'm not gonna blame Dr. Fierro as that one person who's the person who made this happen, but really it started with the previous president, to the turnover of staff and the dysfunction of the board. I think it's been, we can all take blame for kind of what happened. And then the question is, can we have that candid conversation on how to move forward? Because, okay, so we have an agreement, it gets ratified, faculty's happy, they get their retro checks, but what does that mean for the next round? You know, and that's kind of the question, that's the you know, I hope you're asking yourselves that too. I mean, I'm not happy. I'm glad we're avoiding fact-finding, but it's not really a happy place to be. So that's not a win for anybody, I think.
So moving forward, what are your goals?
My goals, I think, would be, I think it's inexcusable that you don't have a contract. It's unacceptable. And I think that's been, if we can move forward and not really go to, you know, close this out for 3 years, then we should focus on that contract, right? Because I think that's something that the faculty are concerned about. I think we're one of the only schools that are working without a contract. It's just not acceptable. And we should really focus on whatever it takes to really make it happen. And I think that I can tell you that a lot of board members have voiced that concern. What's going on with this contract? And that's something that's been inherited, right? This 2012 board inherited that lack of contract, right? And as much as there was just so much going on in these past 4 years, I'm not sure if it had been a priority like it should have been. I think it was definitely on in our minds, but maybe not a priority like it should have been. So I think that would be my goal. And the other concerns that I've seen is, I've vocalized it at the board meeting, you know, the question of part-time faculty having benefits, part-time faculty having office hours, part-time faculty having a space to really mentor a student. Where do you mentor a student? That to me is unacceptable. Here we are building pretty buildings and creating the Hall of Fame wing of the sports complex, but part-time faculty can't talk to their students one-on-one when they might be embarrassed because they have a math problem. You know, it's bad enough you feel as a student, feel embarrassed that you have to ask for help, and then to not have a private space where it can be confidential. I just don't find that right.
Stephanie?
So I know that you gave an example of how you communicate with CCFF and some faculty, but the common perception on campus is that you don't communicate with faculty a lot. I hear that complaint a lot. So knowing that, because I know you're already aware of that too probably, so knowing that, what do you propose to do in the future so that more faculty are aware of like this open door policy or whatever that you have? Because that, I didn't know about that myself either. How do you think you could fix that?
I guess maybe be more visible. I think it's to be honest, it's been pretty overwhelming with all the different issues on campus and the different concerns, and you know, maybe you might be referring to maybe the perception of the math. I've been very vocal about the math and the remedial math, and in no way, shape, or form have I been even commenting on the quality of instruction. It's been me from a standpoint of math is the most difficult subject for most students, right? And they're coming in remedial. We're inheriting these students at a remedial level. So the question is, what do they need to succeed? Do they need more office hours? Do they need more tutoring? Do they need, you know, from a fiscal point of view, do we need to put in more resources into this so we can have these students succeed and complete? And no way, shape, or form has it been faculty are deficient, anything like that. Never, never. And I think one good thing, and I'm very proud with Dr. Fierro, is he's kind of like me where, you know, I'm very A plus B is C. You know, I'm a science person, I'm a math person. I might not sugarcoat it or make it sound pretty, but to me, it just has to make sense. A plus B is C. What do you need? If it makes sense to me, I'm for it. And the same with Dr. Fierro, having that science background himself, you know, he's come in, I think the biggest challenge, and I see one of his biggest assets is that he has come in and really changed the way we collect data, because I have been asking the same questions from day one to last week and never been able to get that data to say, if a program works, I'm 100% behind that program, but tell me it works, show me it works, tell me that it's making a difference in the student's life, that we're not just throwing money into a program that sounds good, tell me it works. And I think with Dr. Fierro, the way he's kind of revamping the way we collect data, we're finally getting those answers. I've been asking, how many students are one math class away from completion? For whatever reason. And let's reach out to those students. You know, this has been a great budget year. Let's pull that student out, figure out what's the issue, how can we make it happen so then the student can succeed and finally complete. And it hits close to home. My neighbor's sister, who's in her 30s, came back to get her paralegal certificate and couldn't pass math, I believe 40 or 60, that's a requirement, but it's to be a paralegal. And she failed 3 times, had to get that permission from the state. And you know, it goes back to, you know, it's not okay that she can't get her certificate because of that one math class. And again, every student has different obstacles. And the issue is, I mean, we can all, I mean, you know more than I do, these students have a lot of psychosocial issues. They have family obstacles, they have children, they're working, they don't have, you know, supportive parents, and there's so many obstacles. So in no way am I saying this reflects the teaching. This reflects the challenge of the students that we're facing. You know, most of them are not college-bound, or sorry, 4-year students, or else they probably wouldn't have stopped at Cerritos. They would have gone straight to that 4-year school. So they come with challenges, and my concern is just, let's identify them and create these programs that are gonna get them on their merry way to wherever they want to go.
I guess, but my question is more, it's not about, it's
Oh.
just in general. So it's kind of, I mean, that's a great answer and very useful, nice to hear. And, but just in general, so right now you're kind of describing yourself as an ally for faculty on the Board of Trustees, and that you're interested in the same things that we're interested in, and that you're open to us communicating with you. But I'm gonna say most faculty don't know that you're open to being talked to. So that's what I mean, like would you fix that the next term?
Well, I think, from my end, obviously it's a two-way street. And I think part is how engaged are faculty? Are they watching meetings? Are they coming to meetings? Because to be honest, when I go to meetings, I see the same familiar faces, right? It's not, I see the same part-timers, the same union people, the same faculty people, and it's really how do we engage faculty so that they're aware? And I've been always available. I was one of the main people to propose that CCFF have a seat at the table, exactly because of that, to make sure that CCFF is aware of what's happening, that they have a voice at the table, that they don't feel like they're limited and their opinion is invaluable to us. So I think that, and with Michelle Llewellyn, we've had a good relationship. So I think it has to be a two-way street that I hope that your representatives, Faculty Senate and CCFF, are going back and saying, hey, there's a concern, come back. And I can tell you that amongst all the chaos, I've been meaning to reach out to the math people and really sit down with them and just kind of talk to them and hope that there's no misunderstanding. So that's one of that it's been on the back of my mind to do. But it is a two-way street, and I feel that in my case, then I need to be more visible with the faculty, whether it's just to make an appearance at the Faculty Senate meeting, something simple like that. I think I can be more visible, yes. Yeah.
I believe we are at the time for the.
Hi. Sorry, I get the last question.
Not quite.
Oh, well, what? Okay, we'll fight later. So, since you mentioned that in 2012 that your board, with all the changes, have some issues that were inherited. And one of the issues that you have inherited is the tiered system of faculty that exists currently with full-time and part-time faculty. And I wanted to know what you think that the Board of Trustees can do as a collective for the future of part-time faculty at this particular college.
I think it's really start having the conversation, right? Because we have about 300 full-time compared to the 600 part-time. So to me, I feel like sometimes are we taking that Walmart route where we rather do the part-time and not pay benefits and not really put these good teachers on that tenure track? And I think that's a conversation to have, because as people are aging out, because people have been here for, a lot of people have really invested their whole career in this one institution, which is very admirable, but what are we doing with those seats, right? And then even with, for example, classified, people for whatever reason were leaving, or I'm not sure how, but we had all these empty positions that stayed empty. So are we doing that with faculty as well, that instead of hiring that full-time, I feel that there is a role for part-time, but not if we're gonna do that Walmart route, if we're doing that to save cost, right? Because there's great faculty that are invested in our students and wanna be here full-time, but maybe we're not allowing them the chance. So I think really starting up that conversation.
Next question. What do you think is one of your greatest accomplishments as a trustee, and also one of your greatest disappointments?
Greatest disappointments, change is slow. And then the more you kind of dig a little bit, you just find more issues, like that led to that, that led to that. And it just didn't become that one little issue. It became like 5 issues all in one, and where do we start to fix it, right? I think that's been the biggest disappointment or realization, that change is slow. I think the biggest accomplishments have been really kind of making that little dent in student success. I mean, like we talk, and I think it's not my doing, it's obviously a collective, but really that largest graduating class was this year in the history of Cerritos College. So I think that's kind of in the direction that we're moving, and the fact that we're more moving in the direction of being more data driven, which again, isn't really, it's a statewide issue, right? Because it all started with that report card. We were asking maybe, it was more of access, and now it's a question of completion. So now it's like, it throws the community college system upside down, right? So we're kind of having to change our mindset a little, but I think just hopefully make it an environment that is more labor friendly here on campus.
This is not a question, but I like to say a couple of things about Dr. Salazar in terms of her involvement with students here. And it is transparent to me. I had consistently invited Dr. Salazar for a number of years before she even became a board member to come and talk to students and to have students reflect on what it means to become what she has and how important it is education, et cetera, and I had seen students' lives changed. And the one thing that I would wish as a little dream is that I think that Dr. Salazar is open and she will respond to you. And I would like to see not only in Mexican American studies and you know, in the humanities, but she's a terrific science person. And most often our students do need quite a lot of good role models in which they can see where they can attain, because they see that somebody from grassroots have, you know, have gotten there, and that motivates them, you know, in turn to become like that. So I just like to really applaud you on that, because you have given your time to do that, and I have experienced that on a personal basis with all my classes. And you science people, you need to take advantage of this.
And I do believe we are at the time of the closing statement, so in a couple, 3 minutes, if you would like to make yours.
I'll be short, and really, my big passion is really to see the students succeed, and I value what you do for our students, because without you, students can't succeed. So, and I really pride myself in really being that pro-labor candidate. I've had a lot of support from outside unions, from pipe fitters to the carpenters to the laborers, to the building trades, because they see that I'm trying to fight for that working family. And really that project labor agreement was a huge victory for us and for our community, really to keep those tax dollars within the community, to make sure we increase the veteran hire and really make it a labor-friendly campus for not just hopefully, you know, faculty and classified, but also for the outside union. So, you know, I just wanted to make sure that, and I hope that you see me as an ally, because I appreciate you and the work you do, and you know, I'm pro-labor all the way. I didn't grow up with my mom cleaned homes and my father was a gardener, and there were no unions for them, right? Because if that was the case, I wouldn't have to go to free clinics growing up. So, you know, union matters. Union matters. It makes the change in your life, in your kids' lives, and really, I really see the value in the work you do, and I thank you for your time.